Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to bring in a very special guest today, Mr. Caleb Kelly, who is a champion on the football field and is a champion now in helping young men navigate life and get ready for their next stages in college and beyond. So, Caleb was the 2015 Dick Butkus Award winner for the top high school linebacker in the nation. He was a five-star recruit. I remember him coming in, a freshman All-American, earned 5 Big 12 championship rings, was named to the 2018 AFCA Allstate All Good Works team. Very cool. And served as a captain on the football team, and now serves as director of S.O.U.L mission at OU. How are you doing today, Caleb?
Oh man, I'm blessed. Easter weekend, good time to be around family. We were talking about it, and my son has his first soccer game, and so we're getting into that this weekend, and I'm excited to see that. It was my birthday this week, so it's been just a lot of love, a lot of gratefulness, a lot of thankfulness to the Lord and to everybody around me as well. And so, man, I'm feeling blessed on this Good Friday, and I'm just excited to be here talking to you as well.
Absolutely. Soccer was a passion of mine growing up all the way and played, intramurals in college at OU, and
No,
we didn't have a organized team at that point in the
right,
90s,
right.
but a lot of fun. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun watching him play and being involved in that.
Yeah, I
So,
might have to hit you up for a coach or something here on some extra pointers if you went that far.
man, one of my claims to fame is I was on KOCO. I did the flip throw in, where you take the
Oh
ball,
yeah,
the
oh
front
yeah.
handspring, and I could throw it about 50 yards at that point in time. Can't do that anymore. I'd break my neck,
That's
but that's one of my claims to fame. Oh man. But yeah, so many fun times. And yeah, I've got good friends that still coach and stuff as well. So I'd be glad to do whatever I can.
heck
Um,
yeah.
Today I was excited to have you on the show to talk about the value of having great mentors, so
Mhm.
important in life, I feel like. And first of all, I'd like to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So, where did you grow up and where did you play football early in your life?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, I'm from Fresno, California. I grew up there. I went all the way. I had the same school district from pre-K, 2 years of pre-K, all the way through 12th grade. And where Fresno is, it's Lincoln Elementary School. It's uh, Kasner Intermediate School, and then it's Clovis West High School. And it's funny because it's all within a 2 mile radius of each other. Lincoln and Kasner, the intermediate school, are actually put together. Like they're on the same acreage, I guess, and it's just right across the grass to go to the other school. And
Oh,
so I
really?
was always in one place. I like to say that leads to a lot of the loyalty that I have, even just because I only went to one elementary, one junior high, and one high school. I didn't do a lot of moving around and different things. And then I went to one college, and I'm still at that college. We talk about mentors and growing up, and I actually grew up without a father figure in my life. I had a stepdad who was had shown me a lot, and now that I'm an adult, I have to give him a lot more respect than I did in general. But he wasn't making very good decisions when I was in elementary and high school and junior high, and so we bumped heads a lot. We didn't really have the best relationship. And even to a point where I always said that I didn't want to be anything like him and all these different things. And so had a lot of struggle that way. And then I met my biological father when I was 9 years old, and that's the one day of my life that I've ever seen him. I actually called him when I was 21 in the midst of college and everything, and told him that I had a couple degrees at that point. I still had planned to go into the NFL, and I handled my business, and that I forgave him for not being in my life. And so those are kind of the two reasons why mentors are so important to me because all my coaches, I mean, all the people that poured into me, different pastors I'd have, different friends' dads that would have me over for sleepovers or just pour into me, all these family members, all these father figures that weren't my actual dad or not even my stepdad a lot of the time. They just poured into me. And so, I mean, a big shout out to Tony Perry, who has passed away, but man, he's the reason why I'm at Oklahoma. Another shout out to Coach Francis, Art Francis, who really changed my love for the game. For Paul Rigby out in Fresno, who was my first seventh grade coach and first person to ever tell me to play outside linebacker instead of inside. Didn't give me an option. He said, "What position you play?" I said, "Inside linebacker." He said, "What position you play?" And I said, "Outside linebacker." And he was like, "That's what I thought." And pushed me out there. Ended up being the first one to know that I was going to do it for a really long time. And then Brent Pribble, who was my strength and conditioning coach, and Derek Sachere, who was a strength and conditioning coach that I had as well. Man, all those men, they really poured into me my entire time just because they saw the love I had, the ability I had, and they gave a lot to me. They didn't ever charge me for anything, and they always just looked out for a young kid that they knew didn't came from a single parent home and had a lot of ability, but didn't have a lot of finances, and so they really did jumpstart me. And so, in that scenario, that's why mentorship has been something that's been so important to me because of how I grew up and who impacted me back in California.
Absolutely. I had coaches all growing up. I did soccer, wrestling, and basketball.
Yeah.
Never was going to be a D1. I'm 5'8", but but I had these guys that, like you said, poured into me, didn't ask for anything. Mentors gave me advice on life, and there were so many. I'd hate to talk because I'll leave people out, but there were so many. And then, along the way, like you said, pastors. My dad was a minister of music. Mom
Yeah.
played the keyboard and organ in church and was always in the church between services. They would be getting the music ready and so forth. So lots and lots of great memories and mentors from all of that as well. So at what point in your life did you start thinking, I want to play college football?
Yeah, I'll tell you. When I was 7 years old, I actually said I want to play in the NFL. I want to be on ESPN after that, and then I want to be a pastor. Those are my prophetic proclamations as a 7 year old boy, and I didn't even really understand the college part until about junior high when my mom was like, "Well, before you go to the NFL, you got to go to college." And I was like, "Man, we have more school to do," and so it's funny that I started out like that. But I mean, I knew that once I heard about what an offer was and being good at football and all that, I had always been the biggest on my team, fastest on my team, best player. And so I said, well, shoot, if we got to go get offers, then I'm going to be the one to do that too. And so probably around junior high, I said, I'm going to go to college. Now, where? I was thinking like, I don't know, whoever won the national championship that year. So I'm thinking of like Florida State, Oregon back in the day, and
Oh,
Alabama, all those teams. And so Oklahoma was actually my first offer. March 24th, 2014. I'll never forget it for a couple reasons. One, it's my mother-in-law's birthday, so shout out to her. And then two, it's the first day that life really changed and all that hard work that I put in up to that point really was rewarded with that dream come true of like I am going to get a free education, I am going to go to college, and that is the next step towards the NFL. So yeah, probably not till about junior high.
well, that's pretty early still. And you thought it started thinking about it like earlier than that, it sounds like. So you had this vision and what you knew what you wanted to do. And there were a lot of people, obviously, you talk about that helped you along the way, right? Coached you, mentored you, all of those things. So I think that's really, really cool. So, as you and I were talking offline, kind of getting set up for things, my dad, my younger brother, Derek, and I all graduated from OU.
Oh yeah.
And there are so many awesome memories from football. I mean, all the way going back to the late 1970s. For me, we had family get togethers. OU Nebraska was like an event, like everybody gets together for that. All the bowl games, everything, and just all the great memories. And my brother Derek actually served as a football manager in 1995. We were living together at OU at the time. And I got to take him over to the practice facilities and pick him up and, kind of talk to him about what's going on. So that was a lot of fun. But what would you say are like your top two or three favorite moments on the field?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was blessed to play. I made a lot of big plays. I was kind of known for with the scouts and different guys that now I've talked to being on the other side. They said, "Oh yeah, you were the big play guy," and we
Yeah.
just knew that when oh you needed a big play, we needed to know where you were at, and we could expect something coming from you. So I was very blessed to have that opportunity to make real big plays. My three favorite that I'll give you. It's pretty hard because I played so many freaking years here, yeah, 6 years,
Right.
and so you get a lot of opportunities. But
Yeah,
um,
lots and
I-
lots of them, I'm sure.
yeah, I think number three for me is we were playing Baylor and it was my junior year. I think that's 2018, and it's a home game. And Brewer is the last name of the quarterback, and uh, I had a really, I guess, defiant week of practice where I was going really hard because that year was weird. The first half of the year they had moved me to inside, but weren't giving me the playing time, and I had already started my first 2 years, so a lot of frustration for me. And they finally moved me back to outside later on. But prior to that, in that frustrated start, I was playing with some anger. I mean, all game, anytime I was put in the game, I was angry, really angry. And so I don't even think I went into that game, that Baylor game, till the second half. And I played probably from the second drive of the second half to the rest of the game. And I had 9 tackles, I had 2 sacks, and a bunch of stats, like because I was just angry, like I was at the ball every single play. And so to get to the play, I'm blitzing, and the running back comes, and I just go straight through him, and there's a wide open shot on the quarterback, and it's a blindside shot. He can't even see me, and I hit him in the back, like spear him, kind of hit him in the back, and he fumbles, and his head actually hits my back because he bends backwards so
Oh,
far.
wow.
And we had this rule when we were playing that either if you get a free shot on the quarterback, either you uh, take the ball out of his hands, you take him out the game, or you get pulled out the game. And so I knocked the ball out of his hands and I knocked him out of the game. So I got to keep on playing. And so
Oh,
that was one of
wow.
my favorites. I think the second favorite that I have is OU Texas game, my sixth senior year after I already had torn my ACL 2 times, and I was on special teams, and I'm running down on kickoff. And this is probably my most famous play, I guess, if there's fame can be associated with being an OU guy. And OU Texas atmosphere, it's a tied up ball game, and we had been down 28-7 in the first half, but we had come back, and we're running down on kickoff after a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to tie it up. And Xavier Worthy, who just broke the record for being the fastest football player ever at the NFL Combine, running the fastest 40. He's actually from my hometown of Fresno, but he's
Really?
playing at Texas, and he brings the ball out, and I actually strip him, and I just take the ball right out of his hands, land on top of it, and nobody seems to know in the crowd what's going on, but I'm freaking out, and I got the ball in my hands, and so we called enough. We got the refs to look at it, and sure enough, I took the ball, stripped it right out of his hands. And so that one is what a lot of fans usually come up to me and talk about whenever they recognize me or remember that play. And so that one's pretty cool. But that's probably my second favorite. It has a lot of meaning because I didn't get to play a lot for Brian Odom, who's a Ada alumni and Oklahoma boy himself. And so for him to be my linebacker coach after Coach Mike Stoops, man, I built a really good relationship with him, but he was an inside linebacker coach. And so I didn't get to play under him much. I got put on outside again at that point because I had the 2 ACLs in a row, and then younger guys started playing. And so he was the kickoff coach though. And so I had the opportunity on kickoff to finally make a play for my coach that I love so much, and Brian Odom. And so that was a real special moment after the game for him. So that's why that means a lot to me. And then my last one and my favorite play that I've ever had is probably my best individual play I ever had, playing at West Virginia in 2018. And this is now I'm starting again playing outside, and they had changed the whole defense for me at this point because they needed to get me on the field somehow, some way. And so we're playing all different kinds of coverages where I'm playing man to man on tight ends, which is and just pretty unheard of, and pretty lucky to get that opportunity because of my skill set. And so I actually am on this play. I'm playing front side edge, and we're in our blitz package, and so I'm playing defensive end, essentially stand up defensive end, going against a 300-pounder, and I just bull rush him like I'm supposed to. We're running a stunt, and then it allows me to come free because his foot gets caught up with another lineman, and so I blow him up. I'm running. I get another free shot at the quarterback, Will Greer, at that time in West Virginia, and I actually run. I strip the ball, punch it out. I jump up, I scoop it, and I score. And so it was funny. The ESPN highlight was like Caleb Kelly sacks, Caleb Kelly strips, Caleb Kelly scoops, Caleb Kelly scores, and said like four things. That's the best highlight. That's the best alert you could ever get for that guy. And so it was funny. But those are probably my three favorite plays, man. Really blessed to have the opportunity to make them. But man, it just was a lot of fun playing ball here.
Well, we were blessed to get to watch all of those things, and we're spoiled as OU fans. I mean, we've had so many good teams for so many years, right? And you
Yeah.
hear people complain about things, I'm sure, but
Oh
maybe
yeah.
we're pretty spoiled rotten when it comes to football. I mean, we're right
Yeah.
at the very top, you know.
Definitely.
So, can you tell us a little bit about, some of your coach mentors, maybe some of those that were involved in football, and then how did all of it lead to what you're doing today, which is not just OU, but other things as well. So how did all that kind of lead to what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I mean, I mentioned him, but Tony Perry is a guy who, man, he had a freaking, I don't know, Chevy Impala that was just as ghetto as can be, and he rolled around the entire country, would drive to Texas, back to California in it, and man, he just wanted to give kids an opportunity. He himself, he played ball when he was in high school, but tore his ACL before it was kind of a normal thing that happened. And so ended his career, and right away he just got into coaching. We all called him the DB guru, and we had 7-on-7 teams named after him. They still do today in Fresno, California. But man, Tony, he really took me under his wing. Where I grew up in Fresno, it's Fresno is an area in California where it derives from redlining, where you have the different districts where when segregation and things were happening in the country, you had specific areas for specific cultures and ethnicities, and so it derives from that. And so there's still a little bit of that. There's now obviously 2024 more intermingled, and different cultures have expanded to different places, but the west side of Fresno is still predominantly black and predominantly underprivileged and underserved. And so that's where I played football. Like that was where I did 7-on-7, Pop Warner, like all those football growing up. And obviously a lot of talent is in African American communities. And so that's where I got a lot of playing and a lot of ability and a lot of my black culture, honestly. And not knowing my dad, who is the black part of me, was that was a big portion of my upbringing as well, because I needed to be around that and exposed to that too. And so my mom did a great job in that. And at the same time, though, better education was on the north side of town where I went to school at Clovis West, and that's where it was more predominantly white and a higher scale of wages and living out there. And so I got the best of both worlds. And then being half black and half white, man, it was really something that was so important to me back home, because I bridged the gap between everybody. Like I felt so welcomed everywhere. I was always athletic enough, or quote unquote black enough to be on the west side, but then also I was appropriate enough, or quote unquote white enough to go on the white side of town. And I felt comfortable in both, because I mean my family was all white. I got a bunch of blonde hair, blue-eyed family members, and then here's this little mixed boy in the family. We would laugh every time we take our Christmas pictures. I'd say the blind side joke, there's a color boy in your pictures. Everybody would die laughing.
What a
But
great movie that was.
oh man. And so it just gave me a lot of opportunity. And so Tony took me under his wing and he really helped me facilitate that. He then started recruiting more guys from the north side of town, no matter their color or gender, or well, gender mattered for sure. It's football, but all the other things
Yeah.
outside of that, they were allowed to come on our teams over there, and I got to bridge that gap. I would bring all my people from the west side to meet the people on the north side and vice versa, and it just really gave opportunity to bridge the gap. And Fresno just felt a little bit smaller at that point because everybody knew everybody and there wasn't all this random beef and things going on. And I was a huge catalyst in it. And he was the one that gave me that opportunity to do that. So forever indebted to him and love him so much. I miss him. I still got his phone number memorized in my head. And every time I would just pick up and call him, and we call him Uncle Perry, or I would call him Uncle Perry. He'd call me K or Killer, and I was a killer on the field, and so he just called me that. And he just it meant so much to me, and he really still means so much to me, and I'm so grateful for him. But he's probably the first mentor that pops up in my head when it's just a total unselfishness and service that you just want to give to kids and just give them an opportunity to get a better life and to create something of themselves. Man, he lived that through and through. He loved eat, sleep, breathe football. Had every single college coach in America, every single phone number in his phone. You go to coaching and you're going to be scrolling for a little bit. If you
Really?
need to call somebody, man, he has everybody's number. Just so connected, and just such a good dude. And I miss him to death. But yeah, that's Tony Perry.
Absolutely. So now, you're director of Soul Mission,
Oh
and you're
yeah,
also a project manager with Redwood Roofing.
yes sir.
So
Yeah,
you posted some news about that recently. And, for those unfamiliar, since we're talking about mentoring,
yeah.
what is Soul Mission? What is the Soul Mission program at OU where you're
Yeah,
director?
definitely. So SOUL is actually an acronym. It stands for Serving Our Uncommon Legacy. We take guys from boyhood to manhood. That's our motto. And we want to create uncommon men. And that uncommon is something you'll hear a lot, especially if you hear Coach Venables talk about it. And George Washington Carver, the inventor, the peanut man, the abolitionist, he created a quote that said, when you do the common things in life in an uncommon way, you'll command the attention of the world. And so that's where that uncommon comes from, doing those common things, those everyday things, but doing it to our standard, which we always say best is the standard. And man, when you think about best is the standard, especially on Easter weekend, you think about Jesus and you think about the service, and that's that first word as well. And that's he ultimately paid the ultimate sacrifice, which is dying on the cross, living a perfect life, and still sacrificing his life for all us believers. And so you talk about service, you talk about uncommon, and you talk about legacy, man. We just want you to, when you leave Oklahoma, make it better than what you found it, and leave a legacy there. Because you think about it, in 200 years, they probably won't remember Caleb Kelly. They might see a clip and be like, man, that dude was awesome. Like, he had some good plays. He did some things, but it's not going to be what the young pups are talking about. It'll be whoever's going on in that day and age. But if I get the opportunity to spread some knowledge, spread some love, spread some service, and to create an uncommon men to the next generation, and they do the same thing, that's the legacy I leave. It's not attached to my name. It's attached to God, and it's attached to the influence that he puts in them through his spirit and through the different actions and love that we share. And so that's what Soul Mission is all about. We have different pillars. We have life skills, career and professional development. That's what I'm over. We have financial literacy in our life skills. That's big. We have community engagement, former player relations, and that rounds out the pillars right there. And then we just are there for the guys constantly. We focus on mental health. We focus on service trips. We focus on getting their resumes and giving them internships. So we teach them how to cook, how to dress, how to tie a tie. We facilitate the suits for the guys. Every player here gets a suit, a custom suit, not a tailored suit off the rack, but a custom suit made to fit their bodies. Because when boys are 330 pounds, you can't just get that off the rack.
No,
And so
no.
you got to get a custom suit for them. And so we're just preparing these guys for everything outside of football. And the reason why I'm so passionate is because I was the 5 star. I did start my first 3 years, and I was projected to go first round. And at that point, I tore my ACL my senior year, my redshirt senior year, and my COVID senior year, 3 years in a row, and my career's done like that. You can't control those things, but what you can control is the fact that I got 3 degrees, and I got my undergrad in communication, my master's in organizational leadership, my and master's in business administration, and I did do internships on my own before there was a Soul Mission. And then now here we are in Soul Mission, and guys that want to come up with excuses of, oh, I got football, oh, I got school, oh, I got this, and I'm just not a guy you can give that to, because I was the guy, I was the 5 star, and I still got my business done, and I still got everything done that I needed to outside of football. And it still didn't work out for me. And it was supposed to. I was supposed to have the storybook life, is what everybody would say. And so God had a different plan for me, and Lord willing, He has that NFL for these guys. But we want to make sure they know that everything they do right now is preparing them for that moment, or for the fact that if they go 15 years in the NFL, they're not 40 yet, and they still got to be husbands, they still got to be fathers, they still got to be contributing community members. And so we prepare them for that. That's what Soul Mission is all about. And so, and then kind of getting into the roofing portion as well. I mean, that's a big service portion for me as well. I mean, there are so many people within Oklahoma I didn't know until I kind of got into the business, where if you go 10 years without getting the roof, chances are your insurance isn't even covering your policy anymore, and it's going to be on you. And these roofs can be anywhere from 20,000 to 60, $70,000. If you're a retired vet, or you're somebody that's not working anymore, you can't afford that. And so trying to catch all these people before time runs out, and something that you got to do multiple times throughout your life, and it's a big service deal for me. And that's a big emphasis in Soul Mission, but that's a big emphasis in Redwood as well. Is, man, we need to help people, we need to serve people, and we need to be there for them. And so that's kind of the two things that I'm doing right now, man. I just want to just serve these young pups and serve all these people, these old people as well, with these houses, and take care of them and everybody in between. But God's given me a platform to share that and to do that. And so it's just a huge blessing for me.
Absolutely. We had to have our roof replaced. My father-in-law has been
Yeah.
in roofing and construction his whole life. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
we had an inside track on that, but it was about 10 years ago or so. And I
Yeah.
think
Might need me
we're
to look at your
probably going to
policy.
have it done again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you got your
So,
pops, good. But if he's busy, you just let me know. I'll get you
yeah.
right.
No, actually, yeah, he's semi-retired right now, so we'll see where we go from there. But you and I were talking offline a little bit how life can be very hard. I mean, you went through some really tough things, and
Mhm.
it doesn't always go to our plan, frankly. It just doesn't. So there's always going to be hurdles in this life. You mentioned a couple of metaphors that you kind of use and help people with, in getting through some difficult times. You want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, ACLs, and I had 5 surgeries in 3.5 years. I mean, it happened quick. I had a hernia surgery, I had a shoulder surgery prior to the 3 ACLs in a row. And I mean, uh, bad things happen. And it's funny, I mean, a lot of the times believers, even when you get into a topic of Christianity, say, well, why would God allow bad things to happen? And it's funny, because evil is the absence of good, the same way darkness is the absence of light. And so often people will say evil's just bad, and it's like, no, it's just the absence of good. Good's not there in that time, that point in time. So the only way that you can know what good is for there to be an absence of it at times. The same way, the only way you know what light is and how to measure it is because at some times there has to be an absence of it. And so I think when adversity comes, and I believe that when God allows adversity to come through you, all that's doing, and I mean, I was reading Job before this, and if you ever heard the story of Job, man, he lost everything, had such a great life, and was so faithful, and lost it all, and God restored it all though as well. And so the reality is, bad things are promised. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you are faced with many trials. And so when those bad things happen, not if, but when, my mentality, luckily as a youth and even younger than I am now, was people are going to look at me, because human nature and even sinful nature is to stare at the bad and look at the bad. And so something bad happened to Caleb Kelly. What's Caleb Kelly going to do? Is he going to fold? Is he going to be a bust? Is he going to just go and all those things he was talking about God and his faith? Is he going to turn away from all that because it didn't work out in his dream? Man, those are things that ran through my mind. Like, people are watching for that. People are looking for that. And so when I was faced with adversity, man, it really felt like I had a responsibility, like a huge responsibility where I had so many guys. My first time having a real ACL injury was my senior year, my true senior year. And it's like I got a bunch of pups under me. I'm captain at that point. I'm a leader at that point. There are so many young guys looking up to me, looking to see what I do. And I'll tell you, I was proud of myself because I had that knowledge and I had that mindset, and the only guy could give me that mindset. But man, I knew that somebody younger than me was watching me, and somebody outside of this building was trying to watch me as well, and I could glorify God in this bad moment, in this place of adversity, in this sadness, in this hurt, in all these pains and growing and rehab and all that. People are constantly going to watch me, and I have a responsibility to exuberate what God's grace is and his love is even in those bad times. And so that was always my mentality, is that when bad things happen, now I have a responsibility, because if I claim to be a Christian, if I claim to be a son of God, then I have to live right even when bad things are happening, because that's what we're called to do. And so that's how I got through it. Was, man, this sucks. Acknowledge it. It's bad. I hate that it's happening, but whatever God your plan is for me, I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it with a smile on my face, because it definitely could be worse. And perspective is huge, and there are people going through worse things than just not getting to play football this week or this month or this year. And so that was my mentality, always going through adversity.
Yep. In the Bible, it says, in this life, you will have trouble. It says you will have. Not you
Mhm.
might have, you will have,
Yeah.
but take heart, for I've overcome the world. So,
Yes, sir.
there's a light at the end of that tunnel, of course, for us that believe. And so that's awesome. And, we were talking a little bit also, you do various different things around OU. What are some of the
Yeah.
other things you're doing?
Yeah, so I also do Sooner Vision TV. So you'll often see me at Rudy's doing Sooner Sports Talk, and then during the year, football season, I'll be on the huddle often, and so we'll get coaches in there: Gabe Eicher, Teddy Lehman, and Chad McKee. I mean, so many different guys that you hear all the time. The voice, Toby Rowland and Chris Plank, all those guys do those shows with me, and so, man, that's really fun. I get to talk up some of my guys, some of my OU boys, and then sometimes I get to shoot it straight now too. I get, because they know when they're doing great and they know when they're doing bad. And shoot, for instance, last 2 years is not good enough. It is what it is. It's OU, and so these guys know what pressure they're under. But man, it's fun to do talking. I've always been involved in FCA and spoke around the country. I actually have my own LLC doing that as well, doing speaking. So I'm going up to Sapulpa next weekend, going and talking at a church. And I've talked at my own church out here in Victory Family multiple times and sharing my faith testimony. And now I'm even getting into the point where I'll share different messages and things. I'm speaking at OU Health this upcoming week, and I've spoke at a bunch of sheriff retreats, and the sheriff prayer breakfast is coming up, and I just love speaking and sharing the word, and doing that way, and I feel gifted in it. And so obviously I could talk. We've been here already, and I'm talking a bunch. So that's kind of the things that I do around OU as well.
Man, that is so awesome. I follow you and see what you're doing. You're doing a lot. You must be a busy man, based on what I
Oh,
see.
yes,
Yeah.
sir. I stay on it. My wife is constantly telling me, like, "Hey, you know, you need to spend some time here," and I'm like, "I am. I promise. Like, I'm making for
My
it."
wife does the same things. Work for me is kind of a hobby. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's just it is. So she has to peel me away from the computer
yeah,
sometimes, and there's other things going on.
yeah.
So, but I kind of like staying busy. It sounds like you do as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, it's been awesome talking with you. Seeing what you did on the field, but doing what you're doing, mentoring, helping people along this journey, which can be tough, as you know, and just helping people through that. And what you're doing really reverberates for generations to come. Honestly, you're training up men to train up other young men, and it reverberates. So I love what I see you doing. Love following what you're doing. And thanks for coming on the show today.
Man, thank you for having me. And
Absolutely.
Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooner. Absolutely. Number one, Boomer Sooner. So that's going to do it for our show today. Thanks for listening or watching, everybody. And we'll see you again soon. Take care.